And we're joined now by Assemblyman Matt Simpson from Horicon, the new Assembly member representing the 114th District that covers Essex and Warren counties. Assemblyman, welcome. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you also.
Thank you. We're about 2 weeks into your first session. How's it going so far?
It's going well, going very well. The conference has, I'm accessing all the resources and meeting as many people as I can, and working as diligently as I can in my job. It's been an amazing experience so far.
With the pandemic, Governor Cuomo gave his State of the State addresses virtually last week and his budget address virtually this week. What are your thoughts on the governor's agenda and what he's laid out for the new year?
I appreciate his agenda, the green renewable energy projects. I think that we really need to focus on the COVID recovery and response right now. I think that is paramount. And, I'm very interested in working with the governor and everyone else in the legislature on accomplishing these long range goals. But, I'm getting many calls every single day of concerned seniors and people that don't have access to the information like we do. And, there's a lot of uncertainty out there. There's a lot of businesses that are struggling. There's a lot of families that just are not understanding how we're going to move on to these other, forward-looking agenda items.
The vaccine rollout has been slower than expected. Is the state making up ground, though, with these mass vaccination sites across the state, including one here in Plattsburgh? Is the state getting up to speed now and setting up the sites that are necessary to get people vaccinated?
The real issue is we need more vaccines. I know that my district, we're ready to go. We just need more vaccines. There were some communication issues on how, early on and how we're going to get that done. But, the main point is we need more vaccines and get as many people vaccinated as possible right now. And we need to reach those areas. We have to really focus on how we're going to communicate to those areas that, don't have access to this information on broadband. A lot of this information is coming out in social media. It's on the internet. A daily newspaper is, 24 hours apart from its delivery. So, it's just, there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of people with questions and not understanding. And I think, it's difficult for some people to navigate on computer if they have access to broadband.
Exactly, especially elderly people who may not be tech savvy and may have difficulty signing up to get their shots. Let's talk a little bit about the governor's budget address and his two budget proposals, if you will. He's counting on federal COVID relief aid coming from Washington, from Congress. He has one budget that counts on getting $15 billion from the federal government, another one that counts on about $6 billion. And it's the $6 billion one that if there isn't the full amount, the full 15, that's where he says there are going to have to be painful cuts. Do you agree with those cuts, or are there other areas that you and your fellow Republicans would cut instead or in addition to?
Well, I think that we need to look at all of those areas for any spending that is not critical, not prioritized, not in the priority list. I do think that we need to work with our federal partners on funding. This isn't just a pandemic hitting New York, it's hitting all of the states in the United States. And, before this pandemic, though, we had a structural problem within the budget. There was a shortfall of $6 billion, estimated at $6 billion. So we need to look at that. We can't continue to look at how we're going to reach further into our constituents' pockets to, pay for these programs if they're not priorities. We need to focus on education, public safety, the health and well-being of our constituents. But I think there's other places that we can look at in this budget.
You mentioned taxes. The governor in the past has been reluctant to taxing the super rich, but he did say in his budget address this week that if the state gets the lesser amount, the $6 billion from the federal government, that an option he's looking into is taxing the super rich, a 2% increase in the top tax tier. Do you and your Republican colleagues oppose that?
I don't support taxing anybody unfairly. I think everybody should pay their fair share. But to just arbitrarily say that somebody who has worked hard and made money, that they should pay a bigger share, an unfair share. They should pay their fair share just like everyone else should.
As far as budget cuts, are there areas that you think that there could be budget cuts or savings?
I'm going to look through the, we just had the address yesterday. We're still working on going through that information. I think that, my focus would be to cut some of the regulatory issues and free up some of our small businesses, the people who actually can provide jobs and, support this economy. They are the backbone of our economy, which will raise revenues. So while I don't have a specific area that I want to cut at this point, I'm more concerned about getting people back to work, getting businesses operating at full capacity, and people being employed and providing for their families.
The governor touched once again on the proposal that he made in his State of the State address last week, a $15 basic broadband charge requiring the internet providers to provide that for low-income families that are depending on the internet but can't afford $50 or so a month, to require that they provide that $15 a month basic rate. Do you agree with that and think that that's needed, especially in some of the rural pockets here of the North Country?
I think it would be, they have to have the accessibility to the broadband to begin with. And then we can take a look at how we can make that affordable to those subscribers. Right now, there's many areas that don't even have that opportunity to access broadband unless they drive to a hotspot or someplace that can provide that. So, I think the critical priority is to connect as many people as we can, and then we can look at how we can lower the cost to subscribers. And I think there's another opportunity to look at ways to reduce those costs by the regulatory burdens that exist in New York State for those for-profit companies.
The governor says that the state is 98% covered, but I know you and a number of lawmakers believe that's misleading.
I think it's misleading in the sense that while that 98% may be accurate across the entire state, the district I represent, I think if we did a analysis, it would be a far greater percentage that don't have access to the internet because of their rural nature.
There is money in the governor's budget for 2022 for the Olympic venues, continuing to upgrade the Olympic venues in Lake Placid. Do you applaud that? Do you think that keeping those venues updated is necessary, not only for the 2023 World University Games that are coming, but beyond that?
I do. It's very important and critical to upstate New York that the Olympic Authority continue to upgrade and have modern facilities and continue to draw the hundreds of thousands of visitors to our area and athletes. Lake Placid is a training center for the world, and we need to continue to stay competitive there.
Two other items on the governor's agenda: the legalization of recreational marijuana and the legalizing of online sports betting. Predictions are that the two of those could bring in up to $800 million in annual revenue. Do you support both of those, both legalizing recreational marijuana and online sports betting?
I do not support the legalization of marijuana, and at this time, I do not support the online sports betting. There is a cost to the legalization of and the taxation of these things that are going on. It's, we have, I just think it's not proven that those revenues are going to actually come to fruition, for one thing. On the marijuana side, I think the cost to society in what that could lead to with the increased use of marijuana, what it could lead to as far as other drugs and abuses, I'm not in favor of those.
You were in Dannemora a couple of weekends ago speaking out against the prison cuts the governor has proposed. The Clinton Annex is being targeted in Dannemora, up to 300 corrections officers that would be reassigned. A number of them live in Essex County in your district. Do you think closing the Annex would be a mistake? And is there anything at this point that you and Republicans and even Democrats, like fellow Assemblyman Billy Jones, who opposes the closing, anything you can do to stop this from happening?
We're going to continue to advocate for that closing not happening. It's critical to the North Country to keep those jobs and keep those families in our district. And there is a need for, moving these people across the state is going to be more costly, and it's going to society to move families that have been rooted here for a long time. We're going to continue to advocate for it not closing and us finding a solution to keeping them here and keeping those jobs intact and those families here.
And finally, Assemblyman, what are some of your top priorities as you get situated now and get going with your first session? What are some of your priorities?
Well, my priorities continue to be, from the beginning of when I started running for this position, I had different priorities. I talked about the economy and the environment and protection of our natural resources. Well, those are still priorities, but getting people back to normal, keeping people safe right now, in response to the COVID crisis, and restoring people back to where we were pre-COVID is my priority. And it's going to be for some time until we can get through this.